Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers.
No judging.
Yeah.
No judging.
And the millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. I'm joined here by Alex Westphal. Alex, thank you very much for joining me on today's episode.
A pleasure to be on today. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm not sure the count, but I think we're nearing 80 episodes. So I think this I'll have to go back and do the count. This might be episode number 80. I might say that for the next 3 episodes till I actually do the count, but we're somewhere in around there. So welcome to the show.
But we're going with 80 until we find out.
We're going with 80 until otherwise. Exactly.
Congrats, man.
Till said otherwise. Yeah, I started it back sort of the beginning of COVID. I was looking for, we were all kind of shut in and, just kind of a way to kind of reach out and engage with entrepreneurs and sort of see what they're up to, see what they're doing and kind of expose. Initially, we started out with an Ask the Experts concept, and then I kind of went into, a way just more of like a daily thing. And now it's one take. So this is done in one take. So they're going to see this.
No editing.
What's that?
No editing. No
editing. I mean, I'll edit sort of the names and stuff afterwards, but the actual content will be just from start to finish. So
it's awesome.
So welcome to the show. So I'll give you a quick little bio so everyone knows who Alex Westphal is. So you are a retail district sales manager turned entrepreneur in the tech space. You're currently navigating your first startup, full-time family man. Interesting. We'll talk about that. And the one thing I did want to talk about is you also are a podcaster. I don't know if they call this a podcast, but this is video.
It counts.
Podcast. I don't know what the version of that is. And you're based in Ontario. I'm going to ask specifically, I think you're in Toronto, are you not? Or whereabouts are you in Ontario?
No, I'm all the way down in Windsor. So
Windsor, welcome Windsor. Awesome.
Windsor represent, man.
Windsor represent. And for those who are watching, across the border from Detroit, about 4 or 5 hours from Toronto, give or take, depending on the winter wonderland across the 401 there.
That's right.
What do they call that section there where like every year there's, trucks drive off the road there?
It doesn't have a good name. Isn't it called something like Death Alley or something?
Death Alley, yeah.
Talking about like Chatham, around Chatham.
In around that area, right? Where it's like literally every winter.
It's not a nice name.
Not a nice name at all. Probably starting around now, I would assume, or in the next month or so. For the next 4 months, they get those storms where the snow that drifts across those fields just kind of covers the 401 and
the wind. The wind is pretty intense.
It's sort of
more of a problem for
impassable.
Trucks than cars. I typically see a lot more trucks off the road.
Right.
I've driven that route now for 5 years, in my current role. So it's,
right.
I've seen a lot of it, but thankfully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, I've been safe every year. But I always try to travel around the weather. So if I see there's a weather event happening, I'll work remote for a day and just not go.
And now with COVID, I mean, you don't even need an excuse. You can just work remote regardless, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's been interesting just being in the retail side of business so far for this year. Obviously we had the shutdown and that went on for some time and certainly kind of had a different result depending on where you're working and who you're working with and what industry you're in. And then it's gone very well since then from a business perspective. I think we've done pretty well just from a business standpoint, and we're in a comfortable position. Sorry, my coworker is here. I just stepped into the room.
All good. Where's your coworker? Your kids, your family man.
Yeah. So coworker right here.
Oh, that's the first. Hey, you guys want to come in? We're gonna do a meet the family it's like the meet the Fockers. Here, we'll get mine actually are going to a dentist appointment, so they came home early.
Exciting.
From school. Yeah,
Very
dentist
exciting.
appointment. So
how's it going, coworkers? How are you?
Say hi. There you go.
What's up?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and introducing yourself.
Cool. Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Bye. Yeah, there you go. Work from home. So today was the first of its kind so let's talk a little bit. So you district sales manager. So you are the co-founder of Cephalopod.
Correct.
And then the creator and co-host of the Ronin Geek official podcast.
That is correct.
And then you were with WOW which is a mobile boutique, as the district sales manager.
Yep.
So why? I mean, I'm going to do this is maybe a Ronin Geek official podcast, but let's do a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure. Which of those three do you want to talk about? The Ronin podcast? You want to talk about
Ronin
WoW?
Geek is easy.
Or do you want to talk about
we can knock out
Cephalopod?
Ronin Geek official podcast for sure.
Okay.
So,
let's
and
do.
Yeah, this is the shameless self-plug portion here. Look, it's a podcast. We've been around for about 2.5 years. We cover current events in gaming, geek news, tech, things like that, right? A lot of movie stuff as well. Like just yesterday we recorded and we talked a lot about Mandalorian season 2, episode 1.
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's kind of the big thing going on in the geek world right
Disney.
now.
We just watched that Halloween night.
Yes.
Obviously, there's no trick or treating. Halloween was canceled.
Yeah.
So we went to a friend's place and just kind of the kids all watched The Mandalorian on Disney.
So good.
So
good. But I love talking about that stuff. And unfortunately, you know, the older I get, the less time I have for things like gaming as it is. So it's fun. This is a great way to engage with the community and still feel like I'm a part of it, right? But
Perfect.
without pouring, you know, dozens of hours a week into gaming, which I just don't have.
I'll be very honest. I've never, I love video games. I wouldn't call myself a gamer. I've had periods in my life where I spent countless hours playing video games, sort of maybe mid-childhood on the original Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that sort of gives you my age. Sort of university, late high school, university days on kind of like PS1, PS2, year where you could make your own teams and
and they get more sophisticated every year.
They're way beyond all of that. A little bit of NFL Blitz and stuff.
Oh right,
and then the one gaming sort of experience is what's it called? It's sort of like it's a first person shooter, not Call of Duty. No, it's we're talking
Medal
like early 2000.
About Medal of Honor.
No.
And it's not Battlefield.
CI.
Rainbow Six.
I want to call CI. I can't. I lived in Korea for a year.
Yeah.
And literally we spent most nights in what's called Counter-Strike. CS. Yeah.
As soon as you said Korea, yeah.
CS. I said CI. I meant CS. Yeah, Counter-Strike.
Yep.
We spent many in like 2002, 2003 in what they call, I think it was called Hatebang or something. Basically like a computer room.
Nice.
Sort of like, you know, today's version of I'm at lost for words here.
Yeah.
Kind of like an internet cafe.
Internet cafe. Yeah. How long did you spend in South Korea?
I was there for a year and a bit teaching English.
Interesting. I did a year and a bit in Germany actually teaching English.
Cool.
And I got to visit Japan. That's as far into Asia as I've ever been. But
Japan, Korea. I mean, don't let them hear me say this, but I think very similar in that they're, obviously they're right close to one another. There's probably a lot of history between the two. They probably hate each other, but
there's a lot of common culture there, though.
Very. I don't know if the term is like homogenous. Like 99% of the people in Korea are Koreans. Like there's not a lot of diversity, and I think the same in Japan to some extent.
Sure.
Maybe it's changed over the past 20 years, but interesting time. So how was it for you in Germany? Did you speak German?
It was good. I went to live in central Germany when I was 19. This is a long time ago now, but I kind of ran away from school, ran away from home, did some online courses. Online courses were just becoming prevalent at that point in my educational history.
When was this?
This was like 2003, 2004. I lived there.
So you're similar age. You're in around 40.
Yeah, I'm 36.
So you're getting there.
36 years young.
36 years young. Interesting. So I won't put you at 40 mark yet. There you go. I was just trying to do quick math. 19, 2003. I guess it puts you about 40, 36. 36.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time. I loved it over there. Europe is beautiful. It still is. Can't wait to go back someday. So I've never, it's funny. You go to these places and you remember all these places you used to frequent and go to. And I would love to go back someday and get to see what it's like now,
20 years later.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, probably a different trip now with family and kids and sort of maybe you were, at 19, you were probably, backpacking, staying in, hostels or I would assume not the 5-star Marriott, right?
Speaking of, I got a good story for that one. So when I was, we did Oktoberfest in Munich in 2003. which of course this is the big one, right? This is the big Oktoberfest.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the one that they got the big beer tent, the big beer tents, right, all set up, and there's thousands of people in there.
Yeah.
People, big, beer steins all over the place, right? It's a wild event. It's a big carnival as well. So there's rides and games and everything going on. It's absolutely wild. However, we had to book a room, and interestingly, there's about 500,000 too many people in that city around Oktoberfest time. So it's a long event. It goes on for over a week, right?
For all of October, or only for 1 week?
It's actually in early September. So
is it really?
Figure that
October,
one out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember the only place we could get to stay, so there were no hotel rooms left. So we had to actually rent a tent that was situated in the old Olympic horse racing stadium.
Okay.
So from the 1972 Munich Olympics. So which we found out
is not
still
used?
in use today.
Oh, still in use. Oh,
in
still
the
in
morning.
Use. Okay.
We were woken up at like 6:30 because there's horses around this track. And we're just like, what is, we're all hungover? What is going on?
Who rented you the tents? Like the city, or who was sort of organizing?
No, we did. That was the only place to rent. Like, it was either sleep in our car somewhere or sleep in a tent. So we chose the tent.
No, that's what I'm saying. Did somebody give you the tent or supply the tent?
Sorry. Yeah. Whatever company was renting out from there set up all the tents. They set up all the tents. Yeah. In that situation.
That's pretty cool though. So that's kind of like it's like, the long weekends away camping kind of thing, right? Sleeping in a tent, you don't know with who, where, man. But that'd be interesting in the old horse stadium, the horse palace.
Yeah, the horse racing stadium. Yeah, it was just a horse track, and like they still had the bleachers, the stands set up and everything. It was pretty wild, but I'll never forget that.
Interesting. Yeah. I remember one of the my first nights I went to Thailand as well. All right, I've had a few drinks. I'm good. Yeah, we'll call it a day, dude, right? Like
crash out, enjoy it. That's incredible. That's a way to experience Thailand.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. For sure.
Yeah,
so let's so Ronin Geek Official Podcast. Where can people find that? I think that's cool.
Actually, everywhere except for Apple Podcasts right now, which is something that's been going on RSS feed, and it has disappeared. And every time I resubmit it keeps bouncing. But you can hear us everywhere but Apple Podcasts currently. So we'll be back on there before too long.
I'm gonna go in different directions because I have an interesting question here that I think a lot of people will find interesting, including myself. How do you launch a podcast? Like, what's the process? You talk about the RSS feeds in Apple, and what's the technical, like, are you part of sort of the delivery and the content development side of the podcast? Like, if somebody,
you can do both.
If somebody wants to launch a podcast, let's do this. If you don't mind, let's give everyone out here watching is, entrepreneurs, people, startups. I know my wife's talked about potentially launching a podcast around death. Kind of a bit of a morbid topic, but
a topic that's probably not touched on much.
Probably there's a bit of a niche there that maybe will definitely serve a select group of people. What's the process? Like, I do this. This is simple.
Well, I mean,
you link up, we do a Zoom, and I record, and off we go, and I upload it to YouTube. Like, I've always wondered, what's the process? Yeah,
similar process, because Zoom is one of your tools, obviously, and for your recording feature. For me, it would just be Audacity, which only captures audio, as an example.
Okay,
right?
So do you get on a phone call with somebody, or is it like a two-way sort of call?
Oh no, I got a. If you can see here, so we got a whole studio set up in here.
Okay.
So it's all in the background.
Okay.
But we got a whole audio studio in here. You can record via Zoom and extract audio, for instance. That's one way you can do it if you want to do interviews. I just guested on a podcast called Inhuman Experience over this last week, and that's exactly how we did it. We did it as a Zoom call and then just extracted audio. So you get decent enough audio quality doing it that way. As far as what to do with the podcast, so you have to say this audio file you've recorded or you've edited. Look up Audacity. It's sort of the that or GarageBand, I think, are probably two of the more popular ones, and they're free, right? To be able to edit on. Once you have this audio file, what do you do with it from there? Some more technically minded people, they'll start a website. They'll host the RSS feed themselves. Which is not the cheapest way to do it. And then if you're like myself, or most people in the podcasting world, you will host your audio feed which is called the RSS feed from somewhere else. So for me, it happens to be SoundCloud. For a lot of people, it's Libsyn or Podbean or Buzzsprout. There's a lot of places out there that do hosting. A lot of them will do it for free as well. I know Red Circle is getting to be quite big, and they offer hosting for free. For myself, we host longer episodes of our show. They tend to run for 90 minutes to 2 hours a piece. And I tend to export higher quality audio files. So for me, I need to pay for a service that will support that size of file. Right. So for me, it just works out that SoundCloud offers a good price for the size of file that I'm looking to upload, which is typically a couple gigs in size. Right. But if you're not too concerned about quality early on, then hop on Red Circle, do it for free, 200 megabyte limit on your upload. And then from there,
what would that get you, like time wise? Sort of, you're saying lower quality might be.
Yep.
So what would be 200 megs lower quality? Like we're talking 10, 15, 20 minutes?
Not at all.
Can you
not
get
at
like
all.
a good?
No, not at all. So in fact, if I uploaded a larger file to there, they would just scale it to whatever bit rate is required for that file size, right?
Okay.
So I lose quality automatically, right? Which isn't what I'm personally looking to do.
Right.
But if the overall audio quality and clarity isn't such a big deal, which maybe if you're just one or two people, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But I have three people, right? And it takes quite a lot of editing to ensure that everything is good throughout the audio file. Right. So I just want to make sure that people are getting the best quality file I can put out there, which costs me, I want to say it's 10 or 12 bucks a month uploading your RSS, which is literally something you can just copy and paste into a field and hit submit for most of these things, right?
Okay.
But the actual submitting of that is pretty easy. Normally through Apple Podcast, you'd use iTunes Connect, which is free. Again, you just use an Apple ID to log in. And once you submit your RSS feed, it will tell you if it's valid or not. If it's valid, you just hit submit and away you go.
Off you go.
Under normal circumstances, except for what I'm going through right now.
So what is the issue that you're going through right now? What have they told you?
It's just the RSS keeps bouncing. It'll tell me that it's valid for submission, and then I submit it, and then it bounces. And I've reached out to SoundCloud, and they've been helpful. Apple, not so much yet, really? But just trying to understand why it's invalid is the difficult part here.
Right.
I think it's one of those things. If I just give it another week, I think it's going to solve itself.
They'll fix the bug on the back end that no one knows about except for one developer.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just going to give it a week here and follow up back on it. But that's a very one-off scenario. And I had my RSS listed for 2.5 years already on Apple Podcast, the exact same one with no issue. So typically it works pretty well.
So you kind of just thought, like, what are the ones that take feeds? So you got like Spotify, Apple, like who are the main sort of 5, let's say 3 to 5 that you would want to upload?
The big ones are definitely Apple, Spotify is big. Castbox is getting quite large. Podchaser online, they're a web only one. And then if I was to choose another app, there's so many. There's Himalaya, there's a
whole list of like sort
hundreds.
Of the 5 through 100 kind of thing.
Coincidentally, this is also the base that Cephalopod is going to be built on, but it's going to be primarily another thing after it's a podcast app, right? Okay. So it's but there's so many of these out there, and almost every week there's a new one launching, and I download them when I see new ones launch. In the last 2 weeks, I've already downloaded 2 more recent ones. One's called Podroom and one's called Good Pods. And I just check features and see what works on them and what people like about them and things like that, so we can understand what we're doing with Cephalopod, building out that platform. But there's no end to how many of these things are out there.
Interesting. So. I fiddled around with Podbean probably 4 or 5 years ago. I feel like at this point, sort of, and I thought it was more of like a podcast and they broadcast it. Are there users on things like Podbean or?
You can stream off of Podbean, certainly.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Because they act as a host, some of these platforms, but they also act as an aggregator. And an aggregator is just a place, like iTunes or Spotify, where all RSS feeds are sort of welcome.
Right.
Yeah. And then they build a platform around that kind of. And that's the thing, if you're building a platform, like Cephalopod, like we're doing right around RSS feeds and being an aggregator for those feeds, it's free. It's free content, right? It's just unlimited free content, and then what you build around that content is what really matters, right?
Interesting. So before we get to Cephalopod, because I definitely want to talk about that, and I know you want to talk about it as well. I just have one quick question: how do you go about getting multiple people, multiple audios onto sort of mixed together?
Yeah.
Are you having them, like, this is the technical side of it? Are you having them are you doing like a voice call? Like I know you talked about the audio with say the two Zoom and
Zoom,
extracting the audio.
yeah.
But if you're going more of like a separate audio and you said you have multiple people,
it's deceptively
how are you
simple.
doing that?
It's actually deceptively simple. So in fact, all you would need is just a computer setup with a microphone at each location, and then everyone recording within Audacity at the same bit rate, which is just the standard 40, I think it's like 44,100 megahertz or something.
So you guys actually are having a conversation though with one another.
Yeah.
Right? Or are they recording sort of their piece?
I got them on for instance, like Skype or Discord or whatever. We'll be in a room talking to each other on here, and then just recording into our own computers. And then once you can post those files for free to say like Google Drive, and then download them onto a single computer and splice them all together in which is very simple to do. It's literally copy paste
right.
to splice them all together. But if you started at about the same time, you typically have to trim a little bit at the beginning to make sure all the audio lines up throughout. But if you record at the same bit rate, it's going to be the same thing, and then
it aligns pretty much. I use Premiere Pro for this on so it'd sort of be like an audio editing. That's what Audacity would be, sort of similar to like a Premiere Pro for video, where you can start to splice different things in.
Yeah, except Audacity looks like it came from like 1998. Like it's a very simple, very watered down platform. There's no fluff to Audacity, which I love that about the program.
But it's audio, right? So I mean, it's basically interesting.
It does all the things. It just does it very simply.
Yeah. So and you're bringing in like your intros and your music and all that sort of stuff, like mixing it all in.
Yep. And then I've licensed music as well. So in the podcasting world, it's dangerous to get into using licensed content. So you need to license your own, right?
Right.
And thankfully, there's no shortage of creators out there who are creating tunes and beats and things you can kind of run in the background. So I've been lucky enough to get permission and from artists like indie artists like Burbank, from Yusuf, from great artists out there that have music all over the place. And you can pay for some of that, and some people will grant it for free, but you must ask. So
I use an artist, Kurt Israel Projects. We're gonna get him on as a guest on here.
Awesome.
Our intro, the OMG baby. He's a producer. He produced it. Him and I have been talking through sort of different projects together. I heard it. I was like, can I use it as my intro and outro? And he loved it. So shout outs to Kurt Israel and Kurt Israel Projects on our side too. So definitely. Bringing up, I'm all about the providing a bit of a platform for exposure there as well.
Interesting you say that, because that's what we're working on, right? The current way of creating is to bring all parties together. It's for giving everyone a platform, and everyone kind of gets to work together to build something bigger and better, right? And that's kind of the concept that we're building behind Cephalopod right now.
So why don't you introduce us? We've sort of said the name. Cephalopod is spelled CEPHALOPOD.
Yep.
So why don't you tell us the concept behind Cephalopod? What is it? Where does it fit in the market? And not in a negative way, but why should anyone care?
Absolutely.
Why
that's number one. Why should anyone care? Oh my God, that's always the why, right? What's in it for me? It's what we set out to build was a platform for creators to find new paths to monetization, right? So as it currently stands, what monetization looks like in the creative world would be something like YouTube, where you're getting impression or ad dollars, but just in smaller amounts in many cases, right? And then third-party branded advertising, which could cross over into YouTube with splicing their ads directly into your productions, or you're doing one fresh for them, or even in podcasts, right? You can do audio inclusions inside of your podcast episodes to get third-party branded advertising in there. However, there's also platforms that exist to help you get access to these things as well, right? So there's like Glambassador, Podcorn, things like that, where you can go and you can actually apply for third-party branded advertising campaigns to get these into your productions as well, right? But it's a bidding system, so you're bidding against other creators. The trouble is, and particularly with audio, not so much with video because of YouTube and YouTube tracking stats and everything, but with audio, I could pay someone overseas right now $25 US to get me 50,000 listens today, easy. So when I'm now pitching to third-party branded advertisers, even if my pitch is garbage, but I can show them that I have 50,000 listens in the last day,
right?
It's going to be enough for them to give me the ad campaign, whether they get a return on their investment or not. Right. So to some extent, current third-party branded advertising, particularly in podcasting, is heavily gamed. It is heavily gamed. It is not legitimate. And the right creators, the people who put real work into what they're doing, are not getting the right amount of money.
Return.
Yeah,
So
right
just,
return.
I'll use my sort of my naive thought. So I'm going to sort of go Google Ads. You know, I want, as an advertiser, I can do Google display ads, let's say, on websites. I can pay cost per impression. I know geographically where that website, that IP. So there's a lot of control around that.
And that's stat driven, right?
That's stat driven, right? Yeah, so you're saying that on the flip side, in the audio world, on sort of the podcasting world, there isn't a kind of stat driven.
Well, the control mechanisms can be gamed.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the trouble. So when you know, we see like you should look up Darknet Diaries. So it's a podcast that he did an episode on gaming of the Apple charts, as a matter of fact, where they were seeing these podcasts that were brand new, 2 episodes in, jumping up to number 2 or 3 in their category for Apple chart topping, right? And what's happening?
And they're paying the $25 to get 50,000 views in
they're paying
Belarus
the money to get, and just to get the exposure, right? So too much of it can be
Belarus, but whatever.
So, well, whoever. I mean, a lot of times it's just, and no knock to the kids sitting in Bangladesh who can make a living doing this. More power to you. Go for it. You know what I mean? Like, heck yeah, man. But yeah, in the end, though, it's not an environment that's amenable to advertising dollars. It's not an environment that's amenable to creators who are trying to run honestly, right? It's not amenable to people who are putting real work into the productions that they're doing. So what we set out to do with Cephalopod was just to, the problem that I thought I was solving for at the beginning, because I've been working on this for about a year, is how to get more creators access to third-party branded advertising. And then I realized along the way with my business partner that was actually the exact wrong problem to solve for. The real problem is how to create new methods of monetization and leave third-party branded advertising behind forever. No more.
Interesting.
No more.
Okay.
So it's done. There's this year we're seeing 11-12% attrition in total ad dollars spent, and a disproportionate amount of that is going to be not spent in online advertising. So they're in the age of COVID, they're turning back to more traditional advertising, television, radio, things like that. Digital third-party branded advertising is shrinking faster than anything else in that category. So
what is the answer then? What is the monetization model?
So
what's the $1 million question? Are you allowed to reveal the secrets?
It is literally $1 million question.
Right.
So, and what I can tell you is this, that it all has to start with challenging current models that are accepted and widely used. So for instance, like the subscription model, right? Everything's a subscription these days. Would you disagree?
Yeah, of course.
Everything's a subscription. Almost everything in my life that I have is a subscription, whether it's a bill I pay, whether it's my Disney Plus, whether it's my Netflix, whether it's my Amazon Prime, whether it's, whatever else. Everything in my life is a subscription at this point. I look, my podcast hosting, my podcast hosting is a subscription. My wireless bill is a subscription. Everything is a subscription.
Zoom's a subscription.
Zoom's a subscription, right? And the trouble is with that model is that you can only take it so far, right? Because once people start to get the sense that all they're being nickel and dimed out of their whole lives, then they're not going to be as amenable to doing the new thing that comes along that's also a subscription, right? So the first thing is to leave behind. Sorry, I'm playing with these in the background. My hands have to be busy.
All good. I'm playing with a pen. I'm constantly.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I've got you know what I was about to reach for, but I didn't. But I'll do it just to. I have one of these. I literally spin it. You can see.
It's a sim pin.
It's a sim pin, and I sit and spin it like a top, nonstop on this little desk I'm sitting on.
I got these vampire teeth for Halloween.
So we're I don't know, what do you call that?
Just fidget, man.
Fidgety,
I got a fidget.
Yes.
So anyway, the problem to solve for then is how to also elaborate on a subscription model, and thankfully this model already exists, and what I'm about to tell you is not going to be revolutionary, and it's something that literally anyone can do. But microtransactions, right? Microtransactions as a format for payment already exist, right? And it's really
so like an AWS kind of like charge for billable hours kind of thing, or.
Well, yeah, if you're talking like
Amazon web server, like where you're paying, like you launch your instance, you're paying like on a per usage basis, kind of like that That
Sure.
kind of micropayments type
So
concept?
that would be yeah, because they charge cost per user, right, on AWS, right?
Well,
So
they charge like a usage rate depending on
yeah,
your bandwidth, like there's a whole bunch of metrics that they're
right,
using,
yeah,
right?
depending on what
CPU
service, yeah,
usage or whatever, right?
right.
For your
So
server. I'm talking more on like the back end. Like we host our servers on AWS, right?
so that's the first element of it, right?
Yeah.
And then so microtransactions, though, even from just a transactional standpoint, about like how can you reward creators on a more transactional basis? Because maybe I'm someone who, I have $10 extra to award to my favorite creator this month, but maybe signing up for a subscription on something like Patreon, doesn't really work for me, because that's going to be $10 a month. Well, that's $120 a year. I know how much money I make. That just seems like another bill to me.
Right.
So I think that subscription model also pushes away a lot of people who'd be willing to donate to creators as well, right? Where maybe something that's more $1, $2, $5 transactional basis makes more sense, right? So that's the basis of it, and that's not revolutionary. Every mobile app in the world moving into a microtransaction format is already doing that. So
blockchain,
nothing.
technology. You're familiar with sort of the microtransaction blockchain? There's plugins. I forget the one. I've looked at it in the past. They kind of abandoned it. It's still there. I've debated using it sort of from our end, because we have essentially a equity crowdfunding platform. So talking about like micro investments, right? So instead of micro payments, where you can plug it into YouTube, and I can now give 50 cents or 5 Bitcoins, or I guess 5 Bitcoins probably be a lot of money, 0.0005 of a Bitcoin, to my favorite artist.
You got it. And then also the curious thing about crypto.
So are you guys doing that? Are you like?
I'll tell you, we're doing something that's not dissimilar.
Okay, that's very cool.
And so here's the thing, and what people should know about blockchain and crypto in 2020 is it's been a blockbuster year for crypto so far. In fact, so if we take the metrics measured from April 1st to October 1st for this year alone, and it's a very good period for crypto. So, and you take the top 10 highest volume cryptocurrencies and remove the top one because it's so high up there that it throws the number off. So you have to take out Celsius out of that. So what you actually end up with is about a 72% period increase on value from April 1st to October 1st. In fact, the worst performing high volume cryptocurrency in that time period performed flat. So there's not a single mainstream currency in the world that performed flat during COVID. So at least not one that matters. So when we talk about cryptocurrency and the blockchain and the importance of weaving elements of this into our business models for the future, it's not just critical. You must do it to be successful in the future. This is the way business.
You heard it here first from someone else other than me. I don't even talk about it much. I actually, when we started building out Backers, the idea of crypto was 100% baked into it. But when I started talking about it 3 years ago, people were like, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and they're two different things. I mean, there's obviously the fiat versus crypto controversy, but blockchain as a operating system and as a transactional kind of,
don't even get me started on Ethereum. Don't even get me started.
Ethereum, right? Like EOS, I've looked at video-based blockchain, like Theta token. A lot of YouTube developers over there. I actually own some Theta, so I don't know what I can say about it, but it's gone up, I think 300% in about the past year. And it's, I think, number 26 on the overall market cap of crypto. And it's got a huge sort of opportunity there. But
and then,
let's get you started on Ethereum. What are your thoughts? Pro or against? What do you think?
I'm very much for. The trouble is that something like Solidity, which is the programming language that you can build Ethereum on, right? It's tricky because in my experience so far, I'm having a lot of trouble finding developers who are well versed enough on it to want to engage with it when it becomes a thing once Ethereum 2.0 is established. And I think,
are they sharding? Did you just shart? No, are they? I think I just touching cloth a little bit.
We will be sharding. Yes,
we will be sharding. No, but so I mean Ethereum, like I haven't looked at it in a bit, but there was sort of like you could go off on sort of they would need to shard it because it was getting too bulky from a each block standpoint. But where are they going? This is news to me. I haven't actually looked at it very recently, Ethereum, because we're kind of going the EOS route, or I believe it's
Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, but it also includes a programming language.
Ether. Sorry, yeah, with the smart contracts,
Yeah.
right? So we were going to utilize Ether and the Ethereum blockchain for the underlying blockchain component, but we've kind of looked at EOS, and actually the developers just brought two yesterday before. I think one of them's called like Carta or Serta, something like that. And then there's a couple others that are sort of like in the running, but EOS or there's a couple versions of EOS that kind of have gone down the security sort of from a securities standpoint, like from stocks and bonds and the security token route, which is where Backers is. We're building a security token offering type of platform.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Ethereum? Where is it going?
That's going to be critical too, what you're building out, because like, and for high level, for people who aren't necessarily to know about this particular piece. So this Ether, Ethereum, and the coding language that it's actually built on, called Solidity. So this is actually what we're talking about. Is you can effectively build a program, a list of commands, whatever you want to call it, and you can actually have the blockchain effectively power it. You can have the blockchain run it, so you can make a
smart contract.
In theory, through smart contracts, so you can in theory make an entire application or software application that is completely decentralized. Meaning exactly.
Apps. Yeah.
So for people who aren't to know that, it's a thing to some extent already, but more so just on the web, not so much in terms of mobile apps and things. But I think it's about to absolutely explode in next year. What this is capable of, right, is more nodes kind of.
Do you think people are afraid of it? What's the problem? Like, I feel like the reason we don't talk about it with Backers is because I feel like everyone's going to say it's cryptocurrency. I don't like Bitcoin. Bitcoin crashed in 2018.
It's because of the stigmas too. It's because of the stigmas, right? The stigmas are very strong against cryptocurrency. And I mean, here's the thing. So I hear this a lot from people when we talk about cryptocurrency. Is I hear, well, aren't the bad guys using this for crime? Like exclusively? And my answer to that is always, well, seems like a lot of traditional currency has been used.
I mean, how many 20s get rolled up and
exactly like whatever? I'm just really blown away.
I don't know where I was going now that, and if anyone else knows, I wasn't implying anything. No, this is a family-friendly show.
It's a family-friendly show.
But you know what? It's. I mean,
But I think the stigmas scare people, right? And it's the media and it's the governments driving those stigmas, right? But I can tell you, like, even from a trading perspective, right, for crypto, you can't start a crypto wallet without doing identity verification. You can't do it. You must verify your identity using government issued IDs, okay? Which makes it as secure or more secure if you're doing, blockchain transactions that are using smart contracts to validate the validity of that contract. It's as secure or more secure than a bank. And that's what they don't want you to know, right? Because it's very scary to them, right? To think that, like some of the value will not be in the bank. Some of the value will be wrapped up in this other thing that we have no control over, right? There is risk, so just like when Bitcoin crashed the first time, but just like anything, you have to diversify. If you poured all your stocks into ExxonMobil circa, whenever the spill happened, guess what? You lost value when, in 2008, look at all the stocks that just crashed. So my own grandfather lost millions of dollars when that happened, right? So he lost his whole retirement based on that when all those banks crashed. So look, like at the end of the day, is it really that much more risky? So, to be honest with you, and plus the gains, the short-term gains. Oh my God, tell me something else you could have gained 72% on since April 1st.
The one I was thinking of is called UToken, I think. UToken.io. They've kind of morphed into a different thing around loans, but they had this, it was sort of like a plugin that they were going to add where you could basically, it was a Chrome, what do you call it? Chrome, what do they call those? Like a Chrome plugin for your Chrome browser that would then attach to YouTube, that you could then use cryptocurrency to donate to the creator on YouTube.
That's cool, and that's not terribly far off from what we'd ultimately want to achieve with Cephalopod. There are some fundamental problems to solve for there that I won't mention here because I believe we have solved for them. It's proprietary.
We should actually talk off air because I think we're probably kind of coming to the same ideas.
I think we're talking the same language here.
Like it's
I think we've arrived at some of the same conclusions.
I mean, there's definitely, we're looking at it more from an investment standpoint, rather than sort of the donation or kind of like rewards based. And we're working within the security space to make it like an investment opportunity where they, instead of just giving them money, they're maybe buying equity in that opportunity. Maybe it's in that product, right? So you're tokenizing the asset, right? The actual hard asset, which could be the, in your case, the podcast overall, could be that episode, could be, and they get sort of a return.
But then think about, so it could be a podcast receiving a token that's worth some value, right? And the value is generated because the user has paid into that base, right?
Right.
So now think about it in terms of this. So you have like this big thing right now where all these music artists are upset with Spotify, right? Because they're getting a raw deal on their return on investment in Spotify, right? And Spotify had promised them all this money. And the crazy thing is Spotify's not even greedy, right? They made $7 billion last year and they gave away over $5 billion of it. I mean, what more do you want? They have to be a big company still to stay in business, right? So I don't knock them at all, right? But the trouble is they're working on this really outdated business model based on subscriptions. Think about a platform like that that's moving more into like the tokenization space or the micro donation space based on monetized tokens. So what power could be in a platform like that, right? Just absolutely move the market like that, man.
100%. Like so I'm gonna try to extend your thought process one step further. What if it's not just micro donations, but now it's micro investments, where now I give them the same dollar, let's say, but now instead of just giving it to them, I've invested in the value of the asset that I've invested in, which is that song, let's say. So now I get a million people giving me $1 million to own 10% of that song. And now the shares of that song trade on a exchange or a secondary
we should
market.
Definitely talk offline.
That's what we're building.
We've said too much already, my man. We've said too much already. But that's the idea, right? And the point is,
we're not quite going the song route. We're going corporations, right? But the same concept.
Sure.
Right?
And the idea is ultimately that there is more equity available for more people, and more people get to make a better living because of it, or at least fund their creative projects that they're doing, right?
Exactly.
In the case of what we're working on, right? Which currently the environment does not allow for because it's very exclusive, right? And it can be gamed. So we
need to talk. Like our tagline is investing in opportunity.
Yeah.
Literally like opening up the opportunity. Like I use the analogy Wayne Gretzky, right? That's not the analogy. Who's the greatest hockey player to ever live?
Well, they say the great one.
Well, Wayne, people might say Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe. I mean, you're down Detroit area. The answer is no one knows because they never played hockey, right? Because because opportunity wise, you have to live in a cold country, arguably Canada. You have to have money. You have to, have exposure, right? So arguably the greatest hockey player to ever live never played hockey. Just like the greatest idea, the greatest business, the greatest entrepreneur probably never
something better, but at first we have to displace old models, we have to disrupt, and we have to get more people access to the thing, right? And these are the ways in which we can do it, right?
Exactly.
So and again, the problem isn't solving for how do we get more of the thing that currently exists, it's how do we displace the thing that currently exists with something better, right? And that's a lot of the people I've been talking to, and my business partner, we talk about it constantly, and we're very passionate about it, as you could probably tell. And I'm glad to hear we're on the same page, because I'm telling you, we're putting the pieces together slowly as the tools become available.
Likewise.
And then building things better. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like for us, we talk about sort of the democratization of opportunity, right? So democratization of investments, that's fine, but it's more like everyone now can speak with their dollar, their money, as to what they think is beneficial to society or the community at large, right?
Yes.
And what they value, right? So it's not, we talk a lot about the traditional VCs and investors, and I use terms like fuck investors, right? Not so much like fuck people that invest, but the mindset of a typical investor is like, I'll give you $100,000 to this, we talk about, first, we're both white males, so, it is what it is, but white male in power, getting money from other white males for ideas that, maybe
right.
relate to them versus, the whole other demographic that gets no opportunity. You look at like
it's a hegemony. It's a power structure that exists, right? And you're absolutely right. Until it's democratized and until there's equity available for everyone, it can't be fixed.
Right.
So at which point, hey, I'm glad to step back. I'm thrilled to step back at that point if other people can take the front seat on that. That's amazing. Right. So especially if it's diversity. But unfortunately, we're not to that point yet. And it's because not enough people out there are willing to do this because it's scary. It's really scary to do a new thing that nobody's ever done before, right? and to pave the way.
Yeah.
But look, it's got to be done. It's got to be done.
100%. I mean, I we need to talk.
We will.
Off here. Yeah. I love that there's, definitely, I guess is the word congruence of thought there? Like
we're aligning.
We're aligned. Definitely.
It's a convergence.
Convergence, right?
Yeah.
Maybe congruence is the wrong word. I don't try to use
time frame.
I'm going to throw this out there. Why don't you launch a campaign on backers?
Let me take a look.
People can invest in Cephalopod and become actual investors.
I love it. In fact, when we do that, I'll show you my current valuation sheet to give you an idea of where I've already gone, and maybe you could tell me how I could improve that on backers.
I mean, we basically work with startups, early stage companies right here in Canada, specifically right now in Ontario with our first funding portal, operated by 108 Securities, which is an exempt market dealer here in Ontario. So we using so I kind of saw blockchain, and I'd already seen what's called the 45-108 crowdfunding exemption, which came out in 2016, and no one was really facilitating because it's all the archaic sort of systems to make it work.
Right.
I saw the marriage between blockchain and that, where it's like, technology meets regulatory, kind of the regulatory framework. And basically a private company in Canada, in Ontario specifically, can raise up to $1.5 million, selling equity, an unlimited amount of equity in their business to retail investors. And investors can invest as little as, on our platform, little as $100 and as much as $2,500. In a regulated framework. So, and then we facilitated all on a sort of, we started out on the Ethereum using smart contracts. We're kind of going to EOS, but essentially a security token or tokenizing of those securities, right? Tokenization of the asset. Now you hold one security token that's worth, that's the equivalent of a share certificate. You hold one token in that company. That token, the value can fluctuate. As a company, you can get that 1.5 million invested in your business. You now have shareholders, which we call backers of your business, hence the name for the business, that are now kind of supporting your business. They can be your customers, users, clients, the community that you're in. So it's sort of that whole, and now they support what you're doing, right? So
and that's brilliant. And that's brilliant because it's fungible in a way that stocks just aren't, right? So stocks are very reliant on, return on the investment coming from the company, either saving money or making money, right? In this case, it's all coming from the value of the initial investment, right? Which is a very cool way to do it.
And the underlying value of what the business actual performance is, right? If the business performs well, the value of that token is going to increase, with the value of the business, right? So, it's literally a stock market. Like literally we're creating our own blockchain-based stock exchange.
Radical, man. I love it.
Yeah. We call them IBOs instead of IPOs, initial backers offerings.
That's awesome.
But
instead of ICOs as well.
ICOs, right? Yeah. So it's an IBO. But that's interesting. It all started with this actually. The 3HL. Yeah, I started a 3-on-3 pro hockey league. I was trying to figure out how to fund it in 2015.
Okay. Interesting.
Came across equity crowdfunding. Green Bay Packers, community-owned team. That concept. Thought, hey, that'd be perfect if I could apply it to the 3HL and get the London Threes owned by everyone in London.
That's cool. That's really
like a
cool.
micro ownership or like and that was sort of the advent of backers.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the crazy. And like you said, you got to be a little crazy to think you could start something new and kind of go go against the grain.
Well, that's really
So-
cool. I mean, imagine a sports fan who could like, yeah, I own a piece of the Broncos or something
right,
like
or
that.
whatever.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
That's freaking
exactly.
cool. Like if I'm a
Exactly.
sports fan, I want that. Like,
Yeah,
big
exactly. Or I mean, think of like let's go full back into the Ronin, like the gaming side. Imagine you could own a piece of the the esports team that you cheer for,
Yes.
or the
Oh,
game,
man.
or the game
Yeah.
you play. Imagine you could own a piece of, I don't know games now, but Counter-Strike 20 years ago or
Yep.
whatever, right? And you're like a part owner and watching it, everyone out on Call of Duty or what's the
Yep.
big game right now? Tell us what you're talking about. We'll go full circle on Ronin. What are you talking about?
Oh, dude, Cyberpunk is coming up. It just got pushed back to December. That'll be a single player experience.
Okay.
But it's going to be the biggest game of the year. It's
Oh yeah. So imagine Cyberpunk came out and said fans can buy 5% of this
yeah.
entity, right? Or 100% of it. And it's literally 100% in the out in the fandom, right? And now depending on its success over time, I mean obviously video games kind of have like a shelf life, but then and then maybe it's the company behind that game, right? That now whatever that company is, right? I was going to say EA Sports, but they're probably not in the game anymore. EA Sports, it's not in the game. It's not in the game.
No, it's on the internet. It's
yeah. We're not in the game anymore. But anyways, interesting. Well, let's connect. Where can people find you? Alex Westphal. So Alex, Alex.
Yeah, I go by Alex Austin on Twitter. You can find Ronin Geek at Ronin Geekery on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Ronin Geek News. You can find Instagram. We're doing Instagram, although I'm not too big on that yet. So you can find us in all those places. The podcast is available everywhere except for Apple Podcasts currently, which is
what's the place? Ronin Geek Podcast.
Ronin Geek Official Podcast.
Ronin Geek. Ronin.
Oh
Geek
yeah.
Official Podcast. Awesome.
Yep.
What's the reasoning behind Ronin? Like aside from
it's completely nihilistic. There's no reason.
Yeah. Okay. Just you like the Ronin.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like, is that sort of the what's that movie? Isn't there a movie Ronin? It's like the 13th Warrior or whatever, right?
47 Ronin. Yeah.
47 Ronin. That's a 40. Yeah,
but curiously, the way I spelled it is actually wrong. So in Japanese, it would be Romanized. It'd be called Ronin, right?
Okay.
But in English, I just Ronin. So it's just kind of a joke. Everything's a joke in that show. So
everything's a joke. There you go. Well, I want you back on this show. We're going to talk off air, but I want you back on this show. Cool. When Cephalopod is rolling out in 60 days, so we can talk and do a little release, and we'll probably get you on backers, and let's get you some money in the door.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'll talk, man. Thank you so much.
Cool, awesome. Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining me.
Yep.
Everyone else, another great episode of One Take, powered by backers. This is Justin Fox signing off. Alex Westphal. Peace. See you again tomorrow. Thanks, Alex.
Bye-bye.
Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers.
Right? No judging.
Yeah.
No judging.
The millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.